So guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be teaching y'all how to install strut mounts on your 2014 Mustang, as well as the replacing the front struts. And I will also do another video on showing you how to replace the rear suspension as well. In this video, I will go over kind of the differences and why I chose the shocks that I did for the front as well as the strut mounts. So stay tuned. Hope you all enjoy. Okay, so first things first, you'll take your wheel and tire off, obviously. Then you'll have this bolt right here, another one right there, as well as this 10 millimeter, these are 21s. And then you'll have this little Christmas tree clip, and that's really all you have to undo on the bottom. And then up top, you just have these 4 bolts that are 13 millimeter that hold the struts in. So with that being said, you're gonna take your impact with a 21 millimeter. I just labeled mine so that it would be easier to tell what size it was on video. So we'll just put that on there, like so, and just zip them off. It's really that easy. And then I'll show y'all how to remove that one. So I'll just take a 1/4 inch impact with a 10 millimeter socket on it. And then make sure that it is spinning left, because lefty loosey, righty tighty. It's hard to do one-handed. Just zip that out. And that's really it. Yep, so once you have everything disconnected, that 10 millimeter bolts out, and then that Christmas tree clip's popped out, this is what it'll look like, and that strut will just kind of hang there until you get that 18 millimeter out. And once you have that 18 millimeter, the sway bar end length will just kind of hang down like that. And that's really all you have down here. And then up here, like I said, you just have those 4 13 millimeters. And then once you're on this last bolt, as you're kind of turning it, be sure you have a hand supporting it down here, just so that it doesn't fall. So once you have your strut out and your spring compressor, this is just one that you can rent or buy from your local parts store. I bought mine actually at O'Reilly. Doesn't matter where you buy it. You'll just kind of tighten it down with a 19 millimeter here, a 19 millimeter here, just so the spring doesn't send your strut mount flying. I'm sure y'all could find a video of that. I'm not going to show you what happens in this one, but I'll probably link a few in the video in the description just so you can see what happens.
Oh god, I can smell that.
So once you have that all compressed and this disconnected, don't mind the bearing, and then you'll take this center nut out with a 21 millimeter, and then that's really all you have left to disassemble this, and I'll show y'all. And then this is what it's going to look like after. And this is what's going in the car. Like I said, towards the end, I'll explain more on why I went with the Steeda Proactive set versus an OEM set or any of the other aftermarkets. As you might notice, it's light outside, so I decided that I would take a break since it was getting dark out, but you'll likely spend about an hour doing this job. So once you get to this point, once you have your strut in, I like to just get started with these 2 nuts right here on the studs. That just kind of holds it in place, as you can see. And what you can do from here is you kind of just can push back on it a little bit, kind of wiggle it around, as you can tell, and then those studs will kind of pop up. Let me see if I can prop y'all up somewhere to where you can see this. Okay. So as y'all can see, I like to get started with these 2 nuts. Once y'all just put the studs, once you put the strut in and slide it up, I just like to get these 2 started on the studs. Then all you got to do is just line these 2 up. So you can kind of reach underneath. I'll show you all this here in a second. And just kind of reach underneath the car, push up a little bit, or push back on the strut, and then just thread those last 2 nuts on. And once you kind of get to this point, those 3 nuts will kind of hold it up for you, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Kind of just as you go, you can kind of wiggle it just to get a few more threads, so that way you don't run the risk of pulling those nuts off those studs and stripping out the studs. So again, you just kind of go over it, push it through, okay? And then underneath the car, all I was doing from here was just pushing back on this getting it enough room to move around. So as you can see, we got our brake line here. You don't really need to take off the caliper or the rotor for this job. That's really it. And then to kind of line everything up, I like to make sure that my strut is kind of straight and aligned with that knuckle. Then what you're gonna do, it's kind of tough to do with one hand, but I'll see if I can get an angle to show you all this. Give me 1 second. Okay, I don't know how well y'all are gonna see this, so I'm gonna review the footage here in a second, just to make sure that y'all can see it. So what you're gonna do is just kind of line this up. Like I said, it's kind of difficult to do, but once you get the bottom lined up, makes it pretty simple. So I like to use my knee to kind of just help align it while I'm grabbing that bolt, hold it in place. Then you can just kind of slide that bolt into right about there, should be good. Go ahead and see if I can't get this bolt in. Okay. There you go. So once you kind of get the angle right, that bolt will just kind of pop right in there. Then you can kind of use it as your axis point to rotate the top and get the top nut holes aligned to go ahead and throw in your second bolt. So once you kind of get to this point, I like to grab a 3/4 inch ratcheting wrench. A regular wrench would work. This just makes it easier to kind of apply pressure and still be able to kind of push it into at the same time as you're turning. And again, you'll just kind of do the same thing. You can also take a hammer. I don't know where, there it is. You can kind of take a hammer, hold the wrench like so, and just kind of use the wrench as kind of your press there. And just kind of press that in. And then you'll take your nut. They do not have a nylon lock ring, and they'll just kind of, you can thread them on by hand at first. Make sure that they go on easy so you don't end up cross-threading them. That's really that. I'll show you all from this side here in a second too. So once you have your nuts installed, this is what it's going to look like. This will just kind of pinch onto that, and then we'll go over kind of the torque spec, but this is what it will really look like when you've gotten this far. And like I said, if you want, stay tuned to the end of the video, and I'll go over like the technical bulletin on these struts, as well as why I chose these struts as well as the strut mounts. So next you're going to take your bracket here and kind of line it up right along there, and then take the 10mm bolt that came out of it and just kind of line it up. This is difficult to do one-handed. Trying to get you all the best angle there. So I like to kind of start it by hand. Like I said, make sure it starts kind of easily so you don't end up cross-threading it. It's one of the most common things that happens is you'll get one thread started and then it'll just kind of cross-thread itself from there. So I like to just make sure that the bolts start easily, like so. And then if it gets stuck, that's okay. We'll kind of just wiggle it and make sure that it's not cross-threading or whatever. So yeah, I'll get that bolt installed and I'll show you the next step after that. Okay, so once you have this bolt bolted in, next thing you're gonna do, I went ahead and did it off camera. There's a little Christmas tree clip down here that you're just gonna pop right back into place. And then after that, you're gonna take your sway bar inlay, and I don't know if y'all have already done this, but I just like to take that nut and just thread it onto the end of the sway bar, just in case, so that way I don't lose it and I know where it goes. So I'll just kind of unthread that. Usually I only do it about a couple threads, and then I'll show you all where that'll go here in a second. So this just kind of pops right through there like that. Then you'll just kind of, like I said, take this nut, just kind of thread it on. You'll notice I did cut myself working on this. Just be mindful there are sharp edges, but cuts and bruises kind of come with the territory of any job. I like to just get it started by hand. And then I'll take my 1/2-inch impact with a 18mm socket and just kind of tighten it the rest of the way. And then if I run into it spinning, I'll show you all how to kind of get around that, as well as hold this stud in place so it doesn't just spin on you. So I'll be right back. So the stud started spinning on me. So I don't know how well y'all are going to be able to see it, but there's a little hex on the end of that which fits perfectly in the open end of a 17mm. So you'll just kind of get a feel for it. Once it's on there, it'll kind of just support itself like so. I'll see if I can get an angle for y'all to be able to see kind of how I do this. Okay, that'll kind of work. So I'm going to take my 1/2-inch impact with an 18mm socket and a 17mm on the back, like so, and just kind of hold that nut or that stud in place while I just tighten it. So once y'all have it tight, it's in there, it won't really move around. Also, this is a good time to check your play. This amount of play right here is okay. Just make sure it's not really clunking or making any noise as you spin it or feeling gritty. Mine feels good. If you want, you can also add grease to the ball joint on the back. That's completely personal preference. I personally don't, but if you want to, you're more than welcome to. So honestly, guys, that's pretty much all of that. Besides, next up, I just like to torque these down to 100 foot-pounds of torque each. And then I torque this one down to about 50. And then your strut mounts up here, they get tightened down to about 30 foot-pounds. As well as with the Steeda strut mounts, they have a camber caster plate. So I like to try to get those as close to center as I possibly can. So the way to do that is kind of just moving some things around underneath the vehicle, as well as just kind of feeling for it. So yeah, I will go ahead and get that all adjusted and tightened down, and I'll show you the aftermath. So now that you kind of have all these tightened down, like I said, and the last part is I like to torque them down to 30 foot-pounds. You don't kind of do that in an X. I like to start at this bottom left one here and just kind of go 1, 2, 3, and 4. You might even hear me count it out loud. That's just so I can keep track of which ones I have torqued and which ones I haven't. And usually I'll do it twice just to make sure that they are actually tight and not evenly torqued. So I'll start with this one here, and I'll make sure that you can actually hear the torque wrench click. So right there, there's a click. So that's 1. 2. Then I'll come down to this one, kind of ratchet it into place. 2 or 3, sorry, and then 4. So again, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So just like that, all 4 of those are torqued. Now I'll show you all how to torque the strut bolts itself. Once you have everything kind of installed and torqued down, next up you'll take your wheels and tire, or your wheel. I like to, if I'm going to lift it, I just kind of like to take it and lift it up like so, and then just kind of roll it over to my workspace, just like that. Okay, so as promised, I'm going to get into some of the specifics, but if you want more in detail, leave a comment below, and I'd be more than happy to post a video in response, kind of answering those questions. So just to kind of get into it, so I went with the Steeda Proactive shocks and struts for your S197 Mustang. Specifically, mine are for the 2010 to 14. The only reason I went with those over stock is because I like to kind of dip my toe in some drag racing and more spirited driving, and they're going to be the best option for that. As well as overall, they're just going to be a higher quality and last longer, and they're manufactured in the US. Actually, they're manufactured here in Georgia. So that's just one plus when you go with Steeda parts. is they're actually made in the US. Now for the Ford parts, they do last. However, like if you have over 100,000 miles, such as myself, you'll start to notice that that suspension gets a little bit rougher. And then just your general wear and tear on those shocks and struts. And then as well as I went with the Steeda strut mounts because a lot of times the Ford OEM ones are a one-time use. So as you go to use them, sorry, I got a notification. So as you go to use them, they kind of break apart and you're left to replace them. So I went with the Steeda ones just because they're more than one-time use, as well as they're just higher quality. They're a one-piece billet aluminum design with a enclosed needle bearing rather than a ball bearing or a two-piece stainless or cast iron or cast steel design. Sorry. So with that being said, they're just overall higher quality. You will pay more for them, but it's because they are machined, and the Steeda strut mounts are made to order, so they don't keep them in stock, so they actually have to make them every time you order them. So if you're kind of in a time crunch, expect 2 weeks to get those. I will leave a link to the parts that I used in the description, or if it's not in the description, it'll be the first pinned comment there. And feel free to go check them out. I'm not connected to them in any way, so they're not an affiliate of mine. So with that being said, feel free to go and check them out. I think you'll be glad with what you find on their website. As always, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Please feel free to leave a comment and a like. And in the next video, I will go over how to install the rear suspension. So I hope I answered all your questions. If not, please leave a comment in the comments below and feel free to hit that like button. As well as if you feel like there's someone else that would be interested in this content, please feel free to share it and just kind of push it out there. Yeah, and then also let me know what y'all think about the audio. I'm testing out the new DJI microphones. So let me know what y'all think. I'm going to be switching over to these probably in the future videos, but just wanted to get some feedback on how it sounds. Thank you. Hope y'all enjoyed.